Okay. So, good morning to all. Good weekend? Uh, anyone do anything fun? Nothing fun?
Sleeping?
Oh no.
Is that fun?
You guys are like 17 and 18 years old. You're in the prime of your life, and all I hear is sleeping and homework. And it's a pandemic. You can still have fun in a pandemic.
Example?
Uh, yeah, it's tough. You can still have fun in a pandemic. What kind of things are fun to do in a pandemic?
Play video games?
Play video games? What else? You can watch more movies, although I'm sure we're all Netflixed out by this point after 6 months. What else can you do?
Eat?
You can eat. Don't eat too much or you'll get, bigger and bigger and bigger. You can eat, you can sleep, you can Netflix
Repeat.
and repeat. You can clean your house. Yeah, that's not fun.
That's not fun.
That's not fun.
What you do on weekends?
Me, what did I do? Good morning. What did I do? I went for a little hike. I had some Indian food. I had some sushi. There's the eating part. I watched part of a movie that I didn't make it all the way through. The one about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who just died.
Oh, the
Supreme Court judge, yeah, who's been fighting for equality and women's rights for decades. The movie's actually pretty good. It's called On the Basis of Sex is what it's called. So, decent movie if you're interested in Ruth having just died. What else? What else did I do? I think that was it. I think that,
Interesting.
what?
That is very interesting.
What was?
Yeah, like everything you did.
Everything I did was interesting. The movie was good. The food was really good. The Indian food we had was just, oh God, it was so amazing. Okay, anyway, that's enough about that. Oh wait, I'm going to say hello to people who are here. Hello, all of you, of course, but also hello to Daniel, who's here. Good morning. And Amy is here. Good morning, Amy. And Vicky is here. Good morning. And Gabrielle is here. Good morning to you. And Jack is here. Good morning. And Sam is also here. Good morning, Sam. So I hope you will recall, on Friday we started watching Mean Girls, right? So this is kind of a classic film that lots of people liked back in 2004 and still like today. It's a bit of a classic, right? And so as we saw well, what's going on? What did we see on Friday in the film? A girl that didn't fit in.
She was raised in Africa and she came back to America because of her parents' business and she went to a high school.
Right. So she was kind of raised and homeschooled in Africa. Her parents are scientists or zoologists or something like that. And they come back to the US because her mom gets a position at a university, and Katie, Lindsay Lohan, is dropped into a high school, right? A totally different society that she has never entered before, right? And so, of course, what kinds of things does she not know? Everything, right? Yeah, she has all of those things that we talked about that are part of socialization. So beliefs and values and social norms. I think we could all agree that a high school is like a mini society, right? It's kind of like a mini society. It has kind of its own social rules and norms that are sort of connected to the outside world, but not entirely, right? And so the school's a little society that she enters into, and she doesn't really know the beliefs and values of that society, and she certainly doesn't know social norms. She doesn't really know how to behave. And so we'll see that happening. I think we've seen it happen already, but we'll see it happen throughout the film as she kind of stumbles and gets confused, and she acts the wrong way or says the wrong thing because, again, she hasn't been socialized. And Damien, one of her new friends, she's met two friends, right? Janice and Damien. And Damien says, "Oh, you'll get socialized, all right," which is, he's kind of using a double meaning there, but in some ways, quite literally, that is true, right? She is going to get socialized. She will be taught the values and beliefs and social norms of that little society as the movie goes on. Yeah, so in this movie, we'll see the power of socialization. We'll see how social norms are communicated and enforced and created. And we'll see how social groups kind of work and interact as well. And we just saw that on Friday just before we ended it when she goes into the cafeteria, right? And, Kevin's here too. Good morning. We saw that on Friday just when she goes into the cafeteria, right? And you'll remember Janice draws her that handy little map of all of the tables and and so there's all these little social groups. And what kind of social groups did they mention? Do you remember?
Like the Asian group,
Yeah, there's a couple of Asian groups.
the
Famous
jock,
ones?
the jock
The
group.
quiet ones?
There's the jocks, yeah, the football playing jocks. There's the Asian nerds, right?
And the quiet ones?
The quiet ones.
Yeah,
Cool
they
Asian.
just sit there and
No,
Oh yeah, there's the cool Asians. So there's two groups of Asians, the Asian nerds and the cool Asians, the jocks.
like the group that you want to avoid, like the three girls.
Oh yeah. The plastics were the last group they introduced, right? The three girls who are sitting at the table who we'll meet shortly. Who else? The sexually active band geeks, right? If you've ever, I think that's borrowed from another kind of teen comedy movie called American Pie. If you've ever seen that one, there's something to do with sexually active band geeks. So I think that's where that idea comes from. I think. Who else is there? The what? Yeah, the girls who eat their feelings, right?
the ones who don't eat anything.
And the girls who don't eat anything, right? Who else is there? Oh yeah, the angry black hotties, right? There's them. Who else is there? It's good.
That's it.
And
The coolest people you will ever meet, right? Janice and Damien, right? The coolest people you will ever meet. There's some burnouts in there, which are people who smoke marijuana a lot. So the burnouts are in there. Desperate wannabes are in there. People who like desperately want to be cool, but are desperately not cool at the same time. I think that's everybody. So there's all these little social groups that exist in the high school. They all sit at particular tables in the cafeteria, and of course, Janice draws Katie a little map. That scene of the groups? Yes. Did we or can we? Can we? Yes. I'll back it up just a little bit. Before we go on, I wanted to ask you, as they kind of tour through those social groups in the movie, does that kind of resonate with you in your previous experience at high school? Like, are there groups of people?
And
Like,
in the high school that I went here in Canada, yes, of course, but not the one in my home country,
not in, what's your home country?
Syria.
Okay, so not in Syria, but here in Vancouver, you saw that. What kind of groups did you see? Were you able to identify them the way that they?
It's pretty fascinating, yeah.
Okay,
It's like the same thing.
So what kind of groups did you see? I'm curious.
The girls that you don't want to come close to, and the ones who eat a lot.
Okay.
Pretty much what we saw.
So what we're seeing here is
Yeah, maybe not all the groups, but yeah, you could see a lot of like.
there's overlap,
Yeah.
right? Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Similar groups or different ones?
Similar. It's like basically, you always have like the geeks, you always have the popular ones, you always have like ones that are just kind of in the middle, and the ones that are like trying hard to be like there.
But they're just not. They just can't break into that
Their requirements.
upper level of popularity.
Yeah.
But we just eat in our class though.
What's that?
In my hometown, we just eat in our class.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's true. So, but were there social groups like that?
Similar.
Yeah, even if they didn't eat together, you could still see some sort of patterning. Yeah.
Mine is exactly like in the movie. You know how like in the cafeteria
Right.
Just
So they have
kinda find your way.
their table, right? Their
Yeah.
spot.
You can't sit there.
No.
And even in the seat itself, like in the table itself, like each like individual have their seat.
Oh, interesting. So it's very. That's interesting because what we're seeing, I'm jumping ahead here, but since we're talking about it, what you're seeing is social stratification, right? You're seeing there's levels to this society, and some people are on the top and some people are on the bottom. But not only that, but that's represented spatially, right? There are certain areas that are kind of reserved for certain groups, right? And you know, right? You know that if that's the football players or the jockey sort of table, the bro-y sort of table, you don't sit there if you're not a member of the group, right? And everybody kind of knows it. There's nobody enforcing it except everybody else, but there's these spots that are reserved for certain people and other people may not approach, right? Interesting.
Did you experience that?
Did I experience that? Yeah, my high school was, yeah, there was, I don't think, did we have any mean girls? I'm not sure that we had any girls that were quite as mean as these girls, but we definitely had like, you know, the super popular pretty girls. We definitely had like the football, sporty, you know, confident jockey kind of guys. We definitely had nerdy, awkward guys. I think we had some desperate wannabe kind of people.
Are you the popular one?
What do you think?
You are.
Wrong.
So you're the wannabe.
Are you-
I was not the popular one.
But are you the wannabe?
No, I don't think so.
Were you in the fight team?
Huh?
The smart one.
Nope,
Fight
Was-
people.
wasn't that either.
Just the high school, normal high school.
Oh, you're a jock.
I was in the Asian nerds, actually. No, I was not. I was not.
You're the jock, right?
Nope. Never played football.
Alone?
I think every country has that one sport where if you play, you're
Yeah.
here it's hockey, America's probably like soccer.
America's loves football. Basketball too. Basketball has become increasingly popular. I think football is kind of that's their thing, right?
And baseball.
Yeah, baseball too. In high school, it's definitely either basketball or football.
Yeah, basketball.
Yeah, and it probably depends on what school you go to.
What school?
Yeah, that's their sport. Up here, when I was growing up, we like the high school had a football team, but nobody cares. Like in Canada, nobody cares about football.
Yeah, like it's too cold outside. Like
It
you
is
can't
too
play.
cold.
Yeah, you can't play.
Yeah, you can't play, and
The
so.
snow.
Yeah, and so our high school football team would have like a season of like 6 games because, you know, like you start school in September and in Edmonton it can snow in September. And so you've got until probably the beginning of November. By the beginning of November you have snow on the ground and it's all over. So, you know, if you're going to like create a football team, have them practice and then have them play games, like they get 5 games in before the end of the season and that's it. So it's it's ridiculous,
I think
right?
high school in Vancouver doesn't have like football anymore.
No, I don't. I think
Yeah.
this is a bigger soccer or, you know,
I think they're into hockey. I see a lot of
Yeah,
It's
there's
soccer,
weird
hockey, and
stuff.
basketball.
yeah, not so much at school. People don't play hockey so much at school, but there's lots of minor leagues that you can play in, so it's outside of school. But hockey is definitely our sport here in Canada, right?
But that's not like the main Canadian sport, right?
Uh,
It's like lacrosse or something.
Our official Canadian sport is lacrosse,
Yeah, lacrosse.
but nobody cares about lacrosse. Hockey is, you know, maybe it's not official, but it's the
Vancouver
sport.
Titans, right?
What's that?
There's a team for Vancouver, right? Vancouver Titans.
The team here,
Yeah.
the lacrosse team.
No, it's like the hockey.
Yeah, the Canucks. Yeah, maybe you're thinking of another league, but yeah, hockey's our Canada's thing, I think. Okay, so let's continue. Let's continue with this. So what we'll do is let's try and watch another half hour of the movie, and then we'll kind of debrief. We'll debrief after that. Okay, so online people, same thing. We'll watch half an hour, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back. So what I'll do is I'm just going to walk you through this again online, people. There's some questions that are posted on Microsoft Teams that we're trying to answer in the context of this movie. And if you're online, go to the Columbia College website and go to library, and then go to find materials right there, and then go to streaming videos at the bottom, and then go to Criterion on Demand, and then you can search for it in this little window, okay? So you'll be able to find it there. We watched 10 minutes of it on Friday, so watch from 10 minutes to 40 minutes, I guess, right? That's 10 plus 30 is 40? Still? Okay. Just want to make sure it didn't change. Okay, so online people, I'm going to let you do that. So 40 minutes from now will be 11:02, so maybe 11:05. So online people, we'll see you back here at 11:05. No, is that right? Yeah, that's right. 11:05, and we'll talk about what we've seen. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go until then. See you soon. So we are back. So after, I guess, 40 minutes of Mean Girls, all kinds of things have happened, right? Which we need to talk about. There's so much in this movie to talk about. It's ridiculous. But some of it we'll talk about now, and then once we learn a few more things, we'll talk about it again. So again, this movie won't go away. There's so much to talk about. But let's go to some of the questions that I supplied to you here. No, it was before that. Right. So I think we talked about some of these on Friday, but maybe refresh my memory here. What kind of social rules I think, and we've actually encountered a few more social rules, but what social rules is Katie not aware of? What kind of things does she not know that she kind of learns in the process of the movie? What's the Halloween thing?
You could dress lucky.
Yeah. So
You're not supposed to take it literal, like Halloween costume.
yeah. So the idea of Halloween is kind of, it's a scary holiday, and you dress up in costumes, and if you're high school age, maybe you go to a party, right? But Katie doesn't realize that there are different rules living in what she keeps calling girl world, right? And so she says it's not really about dressing up as something scary or something creative. It's about dressing really sexy, right? So Katie does something really creative. She says she's dead and she's in a wedding dress, so she's an ex-wife. Get it? Get it? Yeah. She's an ex-wife, which is pretty clever, I think. But she doesn't know the rule, right? She doesn't know the rule that girls are supposed to dress really sexy, and so people are looking at her kind of strangely at the party because she's, in one way, she's doing exactly what she's supposed to do, but not according to the rules of high school, right? She's kind of breaking a social rule, or she's showing that she doesn't know it. What else does she not know?
You can't think your friend's ex.
Right, so Katie sort of gets brought into the plastics, right? So they bring her into that social group, and then there's all kinds of rules, not just for the high school, not society rules, but that social group has its own set of rules, right? So one of those rules is, no, you can't like a boy that your friend has dated. That is, yeah. Gretchen says you might think you like them, but you're wrong. You don't. Right?
Does that apply to real life too?
Yeah, probably. It depends. It depends. It would probably be weird in most cases. You could always ask. The best asking is the best policy, but it's probably a no.
It happens.
It happens, but it's kind of.
Yeah, it happened.
It would depend. I mean, maybe if your friend went out with a person like 2 times and then nothing happened, then maybe. But if they went out with them for like a year, maybe different. But you have to ask. But in the plastics, the rule is no, right? No. What's that? Oh yeah, you can only wear your hair in a ponytail once a week.
On Wednesdays we wear pink.
On Wednesdays we wear pink. What else?
Oh, I'm just saying, like she said, wear specific things to school.
Yeah, wearing specific things to school. Pink on Wednesdays.
Track pants are only for Fridays.
Jeans and track pants only on Friday. What else?
You can wear tank tops 2 days in a row.
Say again?
You can wear tank tops 2 days in a row.
No tank tops 2 days in a row. Okay. What else? There's another clothing rule too.
Before you
Oh.
buy something, you have to ask us.
Before you buy something, you have to get the approval of the group, right?
If you join the math club, that's social.
Right. Now that's not a plastics rule so much as a
Yeah.
high school society rule, right? What do they mean by social suicide?
I mean, like your reputation goes down, I think.
Yeah, they're talking about your place in the social hierarchy, right? And so the mathletes are at the bottom, so uncool, right? And so, yeah, anywhere you are in the social hierarchy, if you join the mathletes, you're going to be right down at the bottom, right?
It's kind of like if you're friends with the plastics, you can't be friends with the others as well. Because like when she's talking, when Regina caught her like talking to Janice, she was like, "What are you doing, Janice?"
Yeah, there's a real barrier between social groups, right? You're not supposed to mix with other groups, particularly ones that are lower than you. And so for the plastics, since I think we can probably agree the plastics are at the top of the hierarchy, they don't really associate with anyone else, right? So everybody wants to associate with people higher on the social structure than them, but not so much people lower down. And so for the plastics on the top, they don't associate with really anyone else except themselves, right? They're just this little group. In fancy terms, they're endogamous. So they're it's like in chemistry where endothermic reactions absorb heat and exothermic ones release, right? So it's kind of inside outside. So they're an endogamous group. They only sort of operate, they only interact within the group. They don't really interact outside, right? What else? What other social rules does Katie come across?
Can we say not to trust everyone?
Yeah, I guess we could. I hadn't thought of that, but that's true, right? One of the things I think she's learning is that, you know, she comes from a place where everyone's been friendly to her and everyone has been kind of a supportive community. And now she's in a society where it's kind of competitive, right? And people, you can't necessarily trust everyone. You're not supposed to talk to some people. And so there's a lot of kind of barriers between groups and a lot more potential conflict than she's used to, right? So she's figuring out who she can trust and who she can't, right? Who do you think she trusts right now? Janice, yeah.
That other big dude.
The other big dude? Damien, yeah. So she trusts Janice and Damien. Do you think she trusts Regina? Not really. What's that? She did at first, right? But now she's starting to see. When do you think she stops trusting Regina? The kiss, right? What else? The bracelet. What happened with the bracelet?
She thought Regina complimented someone else, and after that she talked trash about it.
Yeah.
And
And
she probably thought that happening in the beginning.
yeah, did the same thing with the bracelet, right? Oh, it's so adorable. Oh, that's hideous, right? And what else? One more thing.
I think when she saw the Ping book,
Oh, the burn book. Yeah, maybe. Maybe one more thing. I'm thinking of the phone call. Yeah. So Regina called Katie and already had Gretchen on the line listening in, right? And so she.
That call was like more to she didn't trust Gretchen because Gretchen was the one who like told Regina about Aaron.
That's true.
She starts to not trusting both of them.
Right. Right. So she doesn't trust. Yeah. So she can't trust Gretchen because Gretchen told her secret, but she can't trust Regina either because Regina entrapped her, right? Set a little trap for her on the phone, and then when Katie said something bad about Gretchen, she said, "Oh, Gretchen's here. Bye." Ooh. Okay, so okay, so we've kind of answered. Okay, okay, we're all over the place here. Let's talk about 2A. So what do these groups kind of demonstrate regarding social norms? We've got a bunch of different social groups in the high school. What can we learn about how social groups operate based on what we've seen?
Different group do different things.
they have
Give me a little bit more.
different
Like
groups
the
have-
plastic, like doing the cool stuff, like the thing that cool kids do, and
Okay. Okay, so different groups engage in different activities. What else? Sala?
They make their own rules, like different groups make their own rules to follow and then they can't break it.
Right. So each social group has kind of created its own little set of social norms within it, right? So there are some broader social norms of the high school society, like joining the mathletes is social suicide, but then there are specific rules for every group. And so the plastics can't, they wear pink on Wednesday. That's the rule, right? Not everybody does, just they do. What else can we learn about social groups? Yeah. Vera.
If you're high enough, like the plastics, you get you set, like the social norms, like when they cut her tech off, everyone started following, so.
Right. So people who are higher up in the social hierarchy not only can they violate social norms, but they can create some new ones too. And so, yeah, the sabotage of Regina's shirt by Janice. Regina decides she's going to lean into it and go with it, and everyone else starts copying her, right? So, yeah, if you're high enough, you can get away with it.
It act like they kind of owned the school, like in terms of when Gretchen's like date was like going out with another person, and then Regina's like, no, that's not like how it's supposed to be. Like he should be with you, so like she called the mom.
Right. There's a certain amount of entitlement, right? There's a certain amount of they have a lot of power over other people in their society, and they're very comfortable abusing that power, right? And so they're popular, they get away with a lot of things, but they don't use that power for good, right? They treat other people like crap, pretty much, right? Yeah, and they're perfectly comfortable manipulating the lives of others for their own gain, right? What else do we learn about social groups here? Or maybe let's move on to the second one. What criteria determines the group that someone belongs to? So if one of you walked into North Shore High's cafeteria, just like Katie did, how do you figure out where to sit? How do you kind of know where you should go? Huh?
I think I'll just go with the flow.
Go with the flow, but what determines what the flow is?
I don't know,
See what group you could sit with, like what.
it just happens.
But how do you know? Well, that's the thing. It doesn't just happen.
You have the same.
You might think it happens. It might feel like it happens, but it doesn't.
The same perspective as the others, like you do the same kind of things.
Have the same values.
Oh. Okay, you might look for groups that have kind of the same values as you, but how can you really tell what people's values are just by looking at them?
By the
How?
actions.
How
Okay.
they look at you and how they judge you.
Okay, so for instance, when the camera was kind of panning around the cafeteria, the camera panned by the unfriendly black hotties, right? And so would you sit at that table? No, because you're getting a look like those girls were like, what are you looking at, right? They were openly hostile, right? So again, if you walk by that table and looked at it and they were communicating, you're not sitting here, then you don't sit there. But what else?
Based on what rules you broke.
Give me a little more there.
At the start, when they were telling her the rules, they were like, if I wore jeans today, I would be sitting over there with them.
Right. So to some degree, it has to do with how well you can follow. What sort of social norms are you following, right? And so it might have to do with how you're dressed. Might it have to do with how you look? Yeah. In what way?
Like if you are ugly, you cannot sit with a plastic.
Yeah. If you're not an attractive, well, if you need to be a girl for one thing, right? Because it's a girl group, right?
Just that guy man.
Yeah, but he's not. Oh, the boy, Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's not part of the plastics, right? He's the boyfriend. So the plastics are a group of girls. So you have to be a girl. So, there's a social group, right? A gender is important for belonging to the plastics. Boys can't belong to the plastics. And
Also,
there's an attractiveness criteria too, right? So why does Katie get asked to sit with the plastics? Because she's pretty, right? Because she's pretty. What else? What other sort of criteria do you need to be part of the plastics? You have to be a girl. You have to be pretty.
You have to follow the rules. Like, I feel like one of the reasons why Regina kind of took her in is because she kind of sees how Katie is like still confused with the social like groups and all that, and then kind of like, oh, this person, like, I can tell her what to do and I can like feel good about myself because when I'm around her, like I'm powerful.
Yeah, and that's is there a sociology thing to that? There might be a little more psychology in that observation, but I think you're totally right. And would you say that the other two members of the Plastics fit into that category as well?
Yeah, because they would listen to everything Regina says, and they're kind of like scared of Regina.
Yeah. We see Gretchen's scared of Regina and sort of like worships Regina like a god. Karen's kind of dumb, right? so she's kind of very easily controlled by Regina because she's just not that.
She doesn't have like a strong like personality. She's not too clever, and she just kind of drifts along, and she just goes with whatever Regina says, right? And so you're very right. Katie is brought into the group because she's a girl, because she's pretty, but also because Regina sees the opportunity she should be able to easily control her, right? Because she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know any of the rules, and Regina thinks that she can, puppet dance, right? Which is what Regina likes to do. What else?
You have to be fake.
You have to be fake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why they call plastics, maybe.
Yeah, in part. Yeah, definitely. What else? And maybe plastics, but also other social groups too. What determines your ability to be part of that group? So your gender is part of it. Your level of physical attractiveness is part of it.
Your hobbies.
Your hobbies, right? So what do you mean? Give me more.
Because there's like a group of sport people, there's like other people who eat a lot of food and no food.
Right. Yeah, so the jockey guys all play football. If you don't play football, can't really be part of the jocks, right? It's a football club, and it's by gender because it's all.
Also race. Ages.
And also race. Hold on the race. Sabrina, you said style.
Lifestyle
Oh, lifestyle?
and style.
Okay.
Because like they hang out in the mall after school and like the math geeks wouldn't do that.
Right. So there's activities actually bring these groups together too. So some people hang out at the mall. Some people don't because they're working at the mall, like Janice, right? And the mathletes don't hang out at the mall because they're busy doing nerdy math stuff, right? But style is important as well for the plastics, right? Because a lot of their rules actually have to do with how they look, right? They've got to wear pink and the ponytail and the jeans and the sweatpants and the tank tops. And if you want to buy any clothes, you have to get the approval of the group. So they have a lot of rules that are focused on their outward appearance, right? So your level of style is a criteria for being part of that group. And George, and race is another one, right? Think of all of the group names and how many group names have some reference to race, right? The Asian nerds, the cool Asians, the unfriendly black hotties. Preppy guys are usually white, but that's a little variable, but they're usually
Guys
white.
are like the ones that play like golf and
Yeah,
like with the sweater.
yeah, that's kind of preppy. That's pretty white, I think. You could be a preppy person of another race or ethnicity, but I think it's usually a white thing. Yeah, absolutely. Right, so there's a lot of things that determine what group you belong to. And so if you walked into that high school, you might look at people's facial expressions to see who might welcome you and who might be like, keep walking sort of thing. But there's also some other things happening too in terms of style and hobbies and race and ethnicity and gender. All of these things are happening at the same time. And so that's why I'm kind of challenging your answer, George, in that it just happens. And I'm like, yeah, it does. It just happens. But I would say subconsciously, your mind is figuring all these things out. And it's assessing where you belong, right? So it's not just about who's welcoming you, but it's where you fit. And again, your gender, your race, your ethnicity, maybe your sexuality, your hobbies, your perceived level of coolness. I think most of us know where we would fit in the cool hierarchy, right? So all of those things will structure where you feel you might fit in, right? Okay, one last thing for number 3. So number 3 is the rules the plastics are required to observe. We've kind of covered all of those rules. How are they enforced? How do the girls make sure that the other girls follow the rules?
It's like if you don't do this, you have to sit with the losers.
You can't sit at their table.
You can't sit with us. That's like the thing that they say.
If you break the rules, you can't sit with us. And so, is that big a deal?
For them,
No.
it is.
I mean, to us it's not, but to them.
Well, yeah, to us it's not. But why would it be for, let's say, Gretchen? Okay, let's say Gretchen broke the rules. She wore a ponytail 2 days in a row. And so the other girls banish her to another table. Why is that so bad?
Because probably the other groups wouldn't accept her anymore.
Right. So we said that the plastics are kind of at the top of the hierarchy. And so they're kind of an isolated social group. They don't really have any friends outside their group. They have people that like worship them, but they don't really have any friends. And so if she gets kicked out of the table, Gretchen,
You have no one.
she has nowhere to sit. And so let's say, okay, but so she goes and sits at an empty table. There's nobody there. She just goes and sits and eats her lunch.
Like this sort of like, I used to be up here, like I don't want to hang out with people that are like below me.
Yeah. So she's not going to want to hang out with people who are below her, right? And one more thing, what's happening while she's sitting at that table all alone?
They're talking about her crap.
Yeah. Everyone else is looking and judging her, right? So it's a very public shaming, right? It's a public humiliation for this member of, high school royalty. And then she gets kicked out and she has to sit at another table and everyone's whispering and they're like, why is Gretchen sitting at another table? What's going on? What did she do? Is she part of the plastics anymore? And suddenly everyone's gossiping. I heard she did this. And then, there's all sorts of rumors, right? So it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's a huge deal, right? It's this very public statement that she's on the outs, right? She's being punished by the group. And so, do you think that keeps the girls in line?
And I think it also has something to do with like this high school in general. Like a lot of like teenagers, they really care about what other people think in terms of like where do I belong, like how come I don't have any friends, like they have that concept of like overthink of having to be a part of something and feel like they're like accepted.
Yeah.
So that's like also where it comes to like like people in the plastic, they don't want to break the rules because they don't want to feel lost.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very typical human need, right? The need to feel accepted, the need to feel part of a group, the need to feel valued. Those are all very human things, but you're right. In adolescence and in high school, those feelings are turned up to 11, right? And so I can go into a room and sit by myself and it's no big deal, right? I'm okay with it for the most part. But when you're 15 or 16 or 17 and you're in your high school, and that's way worse. That's a different thing, right? So that's a very effective punishment, right? It seems like not a big deal. You can't sit with us, but that's a major punishment, right? That is going to keep these girls following the rules of the plastics, right? And the last thing I'll say before we'll watch just a few more minutes, but they keep doing this thing where Katie is comparing the high school to a jungle, right? So we've seen it happen a couple times, right? It's a little breakaway and everybody's, acting like a monkey and roaring and tackling each other, right? We see her comparing high school to the jungle. And I know what she's going for here, but I would argue that that's not a valid comparison at all. What she's seeing is very human, right? The way that people act, the way that they organize themselves into social groups with norms, and they sort of police each other, and there's a social hierarchy going on. I would say that that's not the animal world at all. That's very human. what she's seeing. But it's fun. It's fun for laughs in the movie, I know. But I think it's not the animal world she's seeing. She's seeing something very human. Okay, so we've got about 10 more minutes. So online people, I'm going to let you go for now, but go back to the movie, online people, and watch 10 more minutes, okay? So that'll bring you to 50 minutes through the movie, okay? So watch 10 more minutes, and then tomorrow we'll pick it up and we'll keep talking, okay? But for now, I'm gonna sign you off. So keep watching, watch 10 more minutes, and then we'll see you tomorrow and we'll talk more about it, okay? So